In this video, I'm going to show you my top strategies that you can use to generate leads using AI. There's obviously a bunch of different ways that you can use AI for lead generation. For example, you can do content, you can do ads, but to be completely honest, both of these either take up a bunch of time and or money. And so in this video, we're not going to be talking about any of those. We're going to be talking about another way. I'm actually going to be walking you through how you can use AI to generate the best performing cold outreach campaigns you've ever ran. And this is coming from someone that does all three and has grown a business to over $1 million in revenue, mainly through just outreach. So let's dive right in. First, when it comes to AI outreach, we can use the AI for a couple different things. First, we can obviously just use it to find leads, and then we can actually use it to personalize our campaigns, meaning our scripts. Because if there's one thing I know for certain, is that the best performing campaigns we've ever ran are always personalized. The better your personalization is, the more replies you'll get, given that obviously you have a good offer, so on and so forth. But even before we get into any of that, we need to figure out where we're going to be doing outreach. You can obviously do outreach via cold email, you can do it on Instagram, you can do it on Facebook, you can do it on LinkedIn, but my favorite, and by far the one we've seen the best results on, might surprise you. And again, I know you probably have not heard of this before, but we've helped over 3,600 B2B companies get set up and see results through Twitter outreach now. And it is across the board, like I said earlier, our best performing sales channel. With that being said, everything that I'm going to be talking about today still applies to every other outreach platform. But in today's video, again, I'm going to show you how to set everything up for Twitter specifically. Now that we know where we're going to be doing outreach, the next thing we need to do is figure out what AI tool we're going to be using for our outreach. Now, obviously you can do a manual setup and integrate some sort of AI like Claude or ChatGPT, but there's dedicated tools that will literally personalize every single message you send. They're trained end to end on outreach, and so it's just easier to see results with these. In this case, we're going to be getting everything set up using Drippy.ai. This tool is actually super simple, and you only need to do 3 things to start a campaign. The first thing we obviously need to do is we need to figure out who we're going to be reaching out to, meaning we need to find leads. Then we can create a script, and then we can put everything together into an automation. So let me just show you how to do this through Drippy. So obviously, like I said, you want to go to Drippy.ai. There will be a link down in the description so you can start your 7-day free trial. You're either going to start a free trial right here, or you're going to go up here and sign in. So once you're inside of the platform, you want to go over to the leads section on the left-hand side of your screen, and then you want to select new lead source up here. Now, there's going to be a couple different options. Lead Scraper is honestly the one I recommend you going with, unless you already have leads that you scrape somewhere else that you can import using a CSV. Now, we're going to go ahead and hit Lead Scraper right here. And now we can either do a tweet source or an account source. In this case, we're going to go for account source, meaning now we can just go onto Twitter and we can figure out who our ICP follows. Now, in this case, let's say I wanted to reach out to my own followers. So I would just go to my Twitter profile, take my link, copy it, and then I would paste it into Drippy. Now, what's nice is I can select whether I want to reach out to my followers or the people that follow me. If you're running this at scale, honestly, a super underrated trick is going after the people that your ICP follows, okay? These are typically higher quality leads because the people that you follow probably are very selective with who they follow. And so these are going to be smaller lead sources, but they tend to be super high quality. But again, in this case, let's say I just want to reach out to my followers, which would be a warm campaign. So we're going to go ahead and hit add source right here. And now we can either add more lead sources or we can hit next and add some filters. Now, I already have a bunch of my filters saved here, so I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to do bio contents. These are some of the keywords that I like running. This typically gives me a pretty good list right here. I typically also recommend adding number of followers. You want this to be at least greater than 100, because if anyone has less than 100 followers, odds are they aren't super active, or maybe they're bot accounts. So I would just recommend you do greater than 100. You can also add number of following. You can exclude keywords, which is really useful. But for this demo, we're just going to go ahead and do this. Now we're going to hit next. And as you can see, we just need to give our lead source a name and we're going to be done scraping leads. All right. So now that we have our leads, we can move on to creating campaigns. And so the first thing we need to do is we need to come up with our outreach script. And so when it comes to personalizing messages and writing DM copy, you really want to put yourself in the prospect's shoes. You really want to think about what pieces of personalization you can add to a script to make it seem impossible to automate. That's really the trick when it comes to personalization, making it super hard for for anyone to tell that it was actually not handwritten by you, but rather that it was AI. For example, this script that we've been running for over a year now that is working extremely well. Hey, hello, hi, first name, obviously that's Spintax. I put together a list of 1,000, then we're using AI to figure out who their ICP is, and then we're name dropping them, and then we're saying who might be interested in. Then again, we're using AI to figure out what service they provide. So we're saying, hey, I put together a list of 1,000 doctors, lawyers, and accountants who might be interested in your video production services. Cool if I send it over, right? And then at the end, we're saying at no cost, of course, totally free on the house, no strings attached. This is one of those scripts that just seems impossible to automate. There's just way too much personalization in here, especially for Twitter, right? This isn't cold email where you can use stuff like Clay, or where everyone's using stuff like Clay to personalize their messages. This is cold DMs. So people don't know that you can actually do this through cold DMs. And you're able to write these messages because Drippy will go into the person's profile. It will go into any websites that they have in their bio to then be able to personalize based off of that data. Now, something to keep in mind whenever you are starting outreach is that yes, you want to be testing out different scripts, but more importantly, you want to be testing out different offers. Now, this really is not being talked about enough, but when you're starting out, I'd way rather you test out different offers. And then once you have a winning offer, meaning a winning angle, then you want to be testing out different versions of that offer through different scripts. So for example, let's say we're running outreach for Drippy, right? So we could have a campaign talking about, hey, here you go, here's some free leads, which is the one we're running. Then we can run another one talking about how we can set up a Twitter outreach system for them. So that's another offer. Then we can have another one, maybe giving away some scripts, so on and so forth. And so you'd be testing offers against themselves. And then once you have a winning offer, then you can start testing out scripts. And obviously there's a bunch of different resources on this channel that you can watch for in-depth tutorials on DM copywriting. And so once we have our scripts ready to go, we can go back to drippy.ai and you can look for the automations tab on the left-hand side of your screen. Once we're there, we can go ahead and hit add new. We're going to select Cold DM 2.0. We're going to hit next. Now we're going to select the lead source that we just imported. And now we can select whether we want AI to come up with the script completely based off of the context that we're going to give it, or if we want our script and then just have AI enhance it, which is what we're going to be doing in this case. And what I honestly recommend to everyone. So we're going to select script personalizer right there. Go ahead and hit next. Now this is where we can add context about ourselves. So in this case, it really doesn't have to be very long. You can keep it very brief. So we're just going to say, hey, we help B2B companies streamline their Twitter outreach and book more calls. There we go. Now we're gonna go ahead and select our script. We're gonna go ahead and hit paste from the script that we just put together. Now we can go on to the settings. Now this is very, very important if you're running AI. So if you're running any sort of AI personalization, which again, I highly recommend you do, you wanna go ahead and make sure the advanced setting is turned on. You wanna set creativity around the 1 mark. Split messages we typically have turned on, and then you want to include website context, and you want to turn the toggle on the right hand side, and also tweet context and turn that on the right hand side. I typically do all websites and all recent tweets, and you can go ahead and test the scripts that you're going to be shooting out right here by hitting generate. Once we are cool with our scripts and we've tested them, we can go ahead and hit next. Now it's going to ask us if we want to add any variants. In this case, I'm not going to, but I highly recommend that you do if you're going to be testing out different offers for your campaigns. Once that is all set up, we're going to go ahead and hit next. You can add as many follow-ups as you'd like. I typically just run 1 follow-up nowadays, and you can keep it super, super simple. I just run it 1 day after. And the reason I do this is because just based off of our data, close to 80% of replies come from the first message. I'd way rather reach out to more people initially than waste daily messages on follow-ups. But I typically just keep it super brief. Like in this case, we are doing the freebie for the lead. So I just say something like, hey, can I shoot it over? Question mark. There we go. Super simple, super brief, just 1 day after. But again, if you want to add more follow-ups, you can go ahead and do that. We're going to hit next. Now we're going to schedule our automation. We're going to schedule 16 messages per hour. We are going to leave the delivery schedule turned off. And then for your advanced settings, you can play around with these, but I typically go with skip previously contacted, do not contact list turned on, prevent cross-account duplicates, AI language check so that we're only reaching out to people that have their profiles in English. You can do AI location check if your ICP is restricted by geography. In this case, we can do United States right here. And then activity check is honestly super, super cool because you can decide to only reach out to accounts that have been active within the last certain amount of days. So in this case, we're going to be doing 14, so 2 weeks is what I like to do personally and that's just where we've seen the best results. There we go. Now we're going to go ahead and hit next. We just need to give our automation name. We need to select our account. There we go. My personal account, demo. We can hit create, and we are on our way to sending messages and generating leads using AI. And that's it. That is the best way for you to use AI for lead generation in 2025. And this is by far the best kept secret in the outreach space right now. And once again, there is a link down below in the description for you to give Drippy a try for completely free, so you can get this going once again at no cost at all. And if you want us to do this for you or for your clients, make sure you hit the second link in the description for more details. I'll leave you with a more in-depth tutorial about Twitter outreach. I'll see you there.